Begin with breaking news this hour, and there are reports that at least 10 people have been killed and more than 50 injured in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, after police opened fire on anti-tax protesters. The demonstrators are understood to have entered the country's parliament, part of which is reported to now be on fire. We can see from this footage here the damage inside some of those parliament buildings. Let's bring in our Africa correspondent, Nusra El-Bayer, who's joining us now live on the phone. Nusra, good afternoon to you. So, what do we understand the situation is currently in Nairobi and in other cities in Kenya?
I mean, Kamali, it's escalating very, very quickly. I mean, just to think that last week, two protesters were killed, and now we've got at least 10 in one day. The fact they've made it into parliament will probably give the police kind of carte blanche to use extra force. But this comes after the bill that they have been protesting against was voted on by MPs and will now ascend to the president's office, where he will either approve it or send it back to parliament. So this is really the moment of this is the moment where everything kind of reaches a fever pitch, because the authorities have shown that they will be very heavy-handed. I mean, at least 50 people injured. That's a lot of people. And then we've also seen that lawmakers aren't heeding the calls. I mean, they've made changes to the tax bill. They've amended the taxation on bread. But young people are not feeling heard. They're feeling repressed. They are putting their lives on the line to challenge the state, to challenge the threat to their daily lives, not just through these through this crackdown, but also in the fact that the cost of living is so high already. Unemployment is incredibly high, especially youth unemployment. And so when we see these protests reach this point, it's usually because people feel like they have no choice but to stand up and to fight against repressive measures. And the fact that they made it into parliament despite the threat, despite they've seen fellow protesters injured, some even abducted, activists abducted, but also killed, means that they are unwilling to cow to this crackdown.
And Yusra, tell us why the government of President William Ruto have decided to pursue this decision to increase taxes. As you were saying there, the increase in taxes is going to be on, everyday goods, nappies, sanitary products, oil. Yeah. Why have they decided to do that when, I guess, Kenya, like many parts of the rest of the world, are going through a cost of living crisis?
I mean, it comes down to foreign debt. I mean, this bill was proposed with the argument that the money will go to the repayment of debt that Kenya has accrued. And I think people feel like this really has nothing to do with them. That's the result of bad fiscal policy, that kind of the accumulation of foreign investment deals that haven't been as productive as the country would have liked. I mean, we've seen the Chinese railway that's been built across Kenya that actually hasn't been as lucrative or as productive as people thought it would be. So, I mean, this tax bill coming in also, I will say to you, Kamali, comes on the back end of a very expensive trip that President William Ruto took to Washington to visit President Biden in the first state visit by an African president in several years. And the private jet that he used cost over $1 million to hire, and that caused huge outrage. There are also corruption cases where a governor managed to is accused of stealing around $15 million. So all of this is happening in the background. Kenyans are very, they're very aware of the conditions that have led to this debt crisis. They're also very critical of the government for the corruption that they've seen. And so for them to be then, they feel like they're literally paying the price of bad governance. And they're clearly refusing to accept that.